All right, everybody, this is the May meeting, May 20th of the Wharf District Council. And as we hope will be the tradition going forward, we started half an hour early with some delightful sangria and some nibbles, thanks to Suzanne and Peggy and Kathy. And we much appreciate that. And there's enough for all of you who are online to join us next time Tuesday. We're going to start, as we always do, with a report from our A1 Boston Police folks. Captain.
Beautiful. Hey everybody, I'll let Zach start off. Good afternoon, everyone. Zach Crossan, incognito today in my undercover clothes. We're working on a few other things elsewhere in the district. So once we finish here, we'll be going back down and addressing some other crime problems. Very, very exciting stuff. Also with me is Captain. Oh, hold on. There we go. Perfect. Great. He's my outdoor voice. Also here is Captain Rich Driscoll. For those of you who haven't had the chance to meet him yet, he's the not really new anymore. Joined us in November-ish. October. Yeah, I feel like I met just about 6 months. Yeah, I think so. From downtown. We'll go over a couple of quick reports and then we'll chat about a couple of things and keep it moving. We have 2 indecent exposure incidents, Tuesday, May 6th, as well as May 9th. This gentleman, this is the Granary Tavern, gentleman that's been sleeping out front. I'm sure everybody here has seen him kind of set up front. Okay, perfect. That one, his name's Arthur. That's fine. I'll just call him Arthur. That was challenging because he's not necessarily trespassing on private property.
You're okay?
He's on a, you got me?
Can you hear okay? Everybody?
Yes.
Sorry, perfect. He's sleeping on a public sidewalk. So there's a challenge there. There's some city ordinances about use of sidewalks and blocking sidewalks and impeding whatnot. He's not really impeding on a 12-foot wide sidewalk when he's taking up 2 feet. There's some other things. He's not establishing, nailing anything into the sidewalk. So we were really up against kind of a legal challenge to forcibly remove him from that space. We had done some Section 12 mental health evaluation petitions to the court that the court did not really want to help us honor. We just didn't have enough supporting documentation as to why he should be involuntarily committed for evaluation. And we had some real challenges. Essentially, we put one of our officers down there to talk to him, to get him to move, to kind of just change his behavior there, really to no avail. He happened to be driving by. He decided he would urinate in just the middle of the sidewalk on a tree, and he said, okay, perfect, we'll arrest you for the indecent exposure. And then once we get to court, we're going to leverage the court clinicians to try to force you into some, we call the involuntary care. What's the involuntary word you started using? Mandated care.
What time was that?
This was,
in front of the Granary Tavern.
4:47 p.m. and then the other one was 9:15 a.m.
So these are times when people are out.
Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, so it's been addressed now. That's not, you're not gonna get a life sentence for that, right? He was probably out of court before the paperwork was finished. But please know that I know I get complaints about him quite frequently, 311s and 911s and emails and text messages, right? From residents, neighbors, people who are concerned. Hello, how are you? Please know that we're working on that one. Kind of respect him, right? We're gonna treat him fairly, and we're taking the respect, also understand that he's mentally ill. He's heavily addicted to various narcotics that don't allow him to make the best decisions, etc. Very resistant to treatment, to sheltering. We're working on it. All right. So those are 2. He's the same person both times that we're working on. So that's we'll work on that. Boat sinking. So we're back to boating season, which is great. Love that. Boat had sunk on its mooring pole. No one was injured. Salvage company came out. This probably applies more to more things on the wharf. And I'm going to try to get the harbor unit to come. I think that we talked about that last time, is having a harbor unit come and talk about various things from the ocean side coming in. And the harbor unit's been amenable to coming and talking every quarter or so, or about things that they're seeing on either on the waterfront, the wharf, environmental things that they're seeing, permitting for folks that have boats and docks, questions and stuff like that, waterways and usage, etc. So they've said that they're willing to come to that. So I'm gonna start. This one was, Rose Wharf. Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
right over here.
right over here, yeah, Sunday this morning. This was, April 25th at about, midnight, just after midnight. So the midnight shift had to go out there and, basically make sure nobody was on it as it was going down and then get the salvage company to bring it back up. This was a spa assault at 115 Lewis Wharf, assault and battery, 4:09 PM on April 26th. Sweet Nothing Spa Rupa, person went in, was receiving some work training, et cetera. Somebody else came in, said they were coming back and forth, trying to, receive service, whatnot. They said, oh, we're closed today, we're doing training instead, and the person was upset that they weren't able to accommodate their walk-in spa request and ended up assaulting the staff. I don't know how it gets that elevated that fast. Usually people say, I'll just come back tomorrow, but this person was assaulted. I think they've identified the suspect in this. They're looking to see what the spa staff wants to do in that. So a little strange, that's a strange one, that's obviously somebody who's also not making the best decisions. An iPhone larceny, took a walk-in report May 11th, so last week, 110 Atlantic. Person put their phone down right at Christopher Columbus Park, walked away for a couple minutes, realized they forgot their phone, ran back, and their phone was gone. They tried to check their iPhone location, but the phone was turned off. Detectives are still working on that one, but that's a tough one. That's tricky, and we shouldn't have to worry about it, right? If something drops, you should be able to go back 5 minutes later and grab it. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Sometimes somebody will see it, pick it up and bring it to the station, and then they show up with turning it off, and it's only been gone a couple of minutes, so that's a tricky one. This was it's domestic, but largely but from a girlfriend. It was 111 Atlantic Ave. Basically, there was a bad breakup, and the girlfriend on her way out ended up swiping about $35,000 in cash that the ex-boyfriend's deceased mother had left as an inheritance. There's some restraining order issues there, whatnot being dealt with, but that was at 111 Atlantic. And then the one that I'd like to kind of talk about a little bit more in depth, and I will segue this into my discussion of cameras and assisting detectives with sort of crime prevention and then crime follow-up afterwards. So there was a May 15th, 1 Central Wharf, so right over by the Chart House. Actually, Captain, we'll talk about this one. This one's kind of really, this one's bugging both of us, and Captain wants to talk about this one first.
So, you probably all heard of the incident that happened over on Margaret Street in the north end.
No.
The the assault battery. Woman was walking home, an individual followed her into her home and then grabbed her by the feet and began sucking on her toes, and she screamed and everything like that and ran away. Thankfully, worked really, really hard to get to make an arrest in that case. So that was on the 14th into the 15th, right? And so this was from the 15th. So I've sent it to the same sexual assault investigators to see if there's any correlation, but we don't know yet. But so on the 15th, right here in the area of 1 Central Wharf, woman was approached from behind, attacked pretty good and robbed, punched, landed down. She was injured pretty severely. They kind of stalked her in the same way and then ran away.
What time of day was that one?
That was right around the same time. So the one there happened at 10:30 PM on the 14th, and then the 15th. This one happened approximately like
11:40 or something.
11:30. Yeah, we watched the video. She just kind of had her back, and he slowly but surely, and then he went at her and then picked her up, slammed her down, stole her. So it was a pretty bad one, but it was right there. That's pretty an isolated area. We just don't have a lot of cameras in that area, but we are seeing what we can pull through it. And I know Zach's trying to collect business cards and whatnot, so we can see how much security footage we can put on. So that's just one of those ones we want to be aware of until we catch them.
Yeah,
Sure.
ask, you say 1 Central Wharf, so it was next to the aquarium?
So,
In the brick driveway between Chart House and the landing.
Oh, okay, so
Like by the Marriott, when you come.
behind the Marriott, right.
we brought, he's on via Zoom. Sergeant Detective Chuck Salucci is here. He can talk about it a little bit more in depth from the investigative side. We just wanted to let you know, number one, we're taking it really serious, and if anyone saw anything in that time frame, which would have been Thursday the 15th, possibly the day before or whatever else, the description was Hispanic male, approximately 5'4", young in his 20s, wearing a black hooded sweatshirt with an orange logo, skinny pants, and wearing sneakers. The sneakers were white, or at least they appeared white to us on the video. I don't know how accurate the ethnic description is, or of the person's ethnicity, because it was a really quick from behind. But that's the description she gave. So, but the skinny jeans and
5'4" should be significant, right?
yeah, fairly slight build.
Is there any advice that you can give to the people in the neighborhood regarding situations like that?
I mean, this one here is like, obviously gonna be aware of your surroundings. He stalked her from behind and then attacked her to the ground.
Don't walk with these in.
Hmm.
Headphones.
yeah.
Sorry, I like
Does she have
headphones.
headphones in?
I don't know, but you said like with some tips that you can, it doesn't say that, it doesn't say though she did or she didn't. But that's,
Be aware.
like, be aware, right? So don't have the noise canceling headphones in when you're out. I mean, if you're out running during the daytime, I can't run without music, it's boring, right? But if you're out walking, especially 11:30 at night and you're by yourself, I like to be hyper vigilant of my surroundings, although that's a fairly well-lit area, it's a fairly well-traveled area. This wasn't like a dark alley. I mean, you're in front of the landing, in front of the Marriott Hotel, right, 20,
Were you out in the
50 feet by the valet.
I think she was
to the chart room?
kind of standing there.
She was standing there. She might, I don't know, maybe,
She's
Chuck,
talking on her phone.
if you know, or maybe she's waiting for an Uber or something like that. I don't know what she was. Chuck, do you know?
I don't know what she was just standing there, it looked like.
Okay,
She might have been on her phone.
yeah, so might have been distracted looking at her phone, trying to order an Uber, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I like to focus on the target hardening aspects of it, better cameras, better lighting, things like that. It's a very, very safe area, but it's one off like this, and if some of the plans, they do scope out areas where there's less cameras, less video for us. It's not necessarily gonna prevent it 100%, but it sure helps stop the next one, because it aids in our investigation, so that's kind of the calculus I use, but yeah, questions?
I can direct you to our safety officer at Boston Harbor Cruises. We installed some cameras, just about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And the Marriott may have cameras out there, but I will say that walkway between North Longmore and South Longmore is kind of a weird no man's land, because there are folks could hide out in that parking lot behind Chart House and just kind of jump through the bushes there.
Yep.
So one thing that we have done internally with our employees is, like our folks who handle cash and if one of our night managers is female, we will make sure that we accompany them to their car, wherever that is, wherever they parked.
Yep.
So, I mean, not everyone has the ability to do that, but,
We're gonna give you a freeze frame of the thing to just see exactly where it is, so you can kind of get orientated, contextualization and really see if there's probably a camera there.
Hey Chuck, I'll put you in touch with them tomorrow. I have their number, so to pull the footage. Yeah, and we get the boat beanies, I didn't think that, before I came downtown, I had no idea how many there were. We get a significant number of boat beanies. Why? Because most people leave their boat keys like in the ignition. It's on a dock. They don't lock the door. They get on the boat, they slide the slider open. Most people don't lock their boats, right? My parents on a boat, they never lock the door. You just come in, open it up, keys are in the ignition. And we're starting to see them night, and people who have nice boats put nice things on them. And we're starting to see, we see this is the season, we start to see boat beanies again, and there's very limited camera vision, so it's a challenge.
I have a somewhat unrelated question. So Sunday night, we were walking back from the theater, it was about 6:30. And we were walking through the portion of the greenway, really, right? Going from the area in front of Hook Lobster over to Trillium. Because there's a whole other section we won't walk. because, and I think we should talk about that at some point, because the vegetation is so thick that it is completely unsurveyed from any direction, and I think that's,
Is that Greenway or?
yeah, that's Greenway. But as we started to enter the Greenway, there's a bench there, and there was a couple sitting there doing drugs. And, so, A, did I do the right thing by calling 911? And B, did anything happen as a result of that, or do you know?
We have to look it up,
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
but the officers are doing an unbelievable job. I can't tell you how great of a job. The statistics are through the roof. And the scooter seizures, you know, I mean, we're still in the process of kind of
I'll pull the
putting
numbers.
toothpaste back in the tube,
I'll pull the numbers before we're talking.
you know, but we're definitely getting back to a newer status quo that's more safer and
Yeah.
public safety.
But the first question was that the right thing to do?
Definitely.
Okay.
So not 301, but 911.
If you need, we'll take both. If you need a cop to handle something between now and like the next hour or so, you've got to call 911. Okay, even if it's something simple, I need a report for something that happened yesterday. 301 cannot take a police report, so it's gonna have to come to 911. We'll prioritize, right? So the armed robbery comes at the same time as your larceny from yesterday. We'll prioritize. We'll handle the emergency first, and then we'll come to your report afterwards. 301 goes from your phone to City Hall to police headquarters, down to me to some patrol officer to go handle it. And so I have to touch 5 people. Versus now I want to call, right to the dispatcher, right back to us, handles immediately. Or immediately thereof, right? If you submit a 301 at 3 o'clock on a Friday, like I'm not gonna get it more or less until Monday morning. When the civilian staff from headquarters come back in and push it down to me, right?
That's the 9 to 5 sort of thing.
More or less. Yeah,
It's not
it's,
supposed to be, but I've been working on that with the person who's in charge of 311 to say like, these aren't timely. So how can we, I'll take it, push it out the minute I get it.
we'll come in Monday, they're like, hey, suspicious package left at 123 Smith Street. We're like, cool, that came in Saturday morning. It's now Monday. So like, well, like it resolved itself because I'm still right, because it didn't make the news.
And it didn't explode.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
think,
right.
Rick,
Say again? Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the stats. We're in the up here they are. So sure you saw, everyone's seen the news about things that are happening in the downtown crossing and the commons, trying to basically change the environment, change the feel. Our commissioner's been very big on the fear of crime, right? We're pretty good at handling like the crime, right? We're pretty good at handling some of the quality of life issues, but the things that are really hard to quantify or qualify and define are the fear of crime. The things that I'm afraid of are probably very different than the things that you're afraid of and the things that you're afraid of, right? And that's very difficult for us as a department, as a city agency to quantify and to then address. But so commissioners kind of made that our effort to do so. So one of the things that we did is people didn't feel comfortable walking through downtown crossing. They didn't feel comfortable cutting through the Boston Commons at any hour.
Oh.
Well, again, some people's level of fear, et cetera, is different. So we came up with a plan, like a safety initiative essentially, to try to address the crime and then fear of crime and then increase all the quality of life issues. We're up to, this for some reason isn't updating itself, but in the last 8 weeks, we're almost at 400 arrests, 250 somewhat summonses, 70 illegal scooters have been seized. Like upwards of 50 or so, 71, just updated, 71 people have been committed for mental health evaluation, section 12, right, mental health, section 35, drug and alcohol abuse, submissions, hundreds of warrants cleared, hundreds of different drug cases have been put on drug dealers, 6 guns have been recovered, a lot of significant warrants have been recovered, some for very violent things, people who are just hiding out down here in the shelters and whatnot, trying to remain anonymous and blend in. So we're really trying to change the comfort level for people who are basically of a lawful design, right, who are up to no good. Make it uncomfortable for them to be here, right? That way the mom with the stroller or the second grade Boston by Little Feet tour group don't have to change their plan because they're uncomfortable walking by the group of, you know, middle-aged guys just smoking drugs and by the Brewer Fountain, for example, right? That's not the vibe we want to give when you come to visit Boston, right? Now the oldest park in America, I put in every one of our reports. That's not the feel we're giving. So the captain's come up with a great plan, given us as the frontline officers, the ability, the flexibility to carry this out. And I got the support of the commissioner and the city as a whole to address some of these concerns. Taking care of sensitive needs, right? People's medical conditions and addiction issues and housing issues. I'll let you talk about the hub in a second and things that we're doing on that end. But at the same end, also holding people accountable for the laws that they're breaking, right? The distribution of crack cocaine, the distribution of synthetic cannabinoids, the carrying of weapons, the robberies, the larcenies, all those other things. And really taking those seriously. And we're starting to get some traction at the courts to start taking some of this seriously as well. It's where we're getting there slowly. So I'll let Captain quickly talk about the hub.
Can I just one more?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Question.
We could absolutely have questions.
Well, you said something about illegal scooters.
Mhm.
Does that mean are they supposed to be licensed or sign up for something? I've never seen a scooter with a license plate.
It's new. They have them. They're supposed to be. The city's website's does actually a pretty good job of explaining this all now. Over 50cc engine, which is like a little bigger than a weed whacker, supposed to have a motorcycle plate, licensed for motorcycles, registration as a motorcycle, insurance for a motorcycle, no different than the Harley Davidsons you see riding around.
We hear
Same
them.
exact thing. Smaller engines, there's different rules for them, but they still have to have a plate that says moped. So it has to have a plate of some sort on it. 100%,
Seeing
yeah.
more of that. I
Yeah.
have too, yeah, last,
Our first phase was the voluntary compliance phase. We
Yeah.
were trying to just teach them, saying, hey, go get your thing, go advise it. We had put BMS boards, the messaging boards. We went leafleted all of the areas of Restaurant Row with because some of these people, it's their livelihood, so we didn't want to hurt their livelihood, So we tried to get as much voluntary compliance here, go to the registry, do this, not that difficult. And when you have a plate, like anything, if you didn't have a plate on your car, you might be a little bit more prone to scofflamming, Same process with scooters. So once we got the plate, we were able to get a little bit more voluntary compliance, and those who don't, now we're into the enforcement edge. And that's the 77 towed scooters and tickets in the last month and a half or so. So that's
The other thing is that, motorized anything on sidewalks that can, a lady with a baby carriage can be smashed by one of these things. They don't stay on the roads at all. What are the rulings there?
with some ADA allowable options, obviously.
Tell me what that means.
Like
American Disabilities Act.
American,
No.
Motorized
I don't think I was, go ahead. You are talking about.
she's talking about motorized stuff, but there are some,
No,
there are
not
some.
at all, not at all.
Oh,
I
I
was
think
talking about walking on the street
And
and
there's
maybe a mother
running,
with a
yeah.
baby carriage.
Scooters and bikes.
Oh, yeah, no, they can't be. The issue is the enforcement piece.
They are encouraged, and it's a point of contention, but they are encouraged to use bike lanes.
There's no signage that says, hey, stay on the road.
You don't need a sign to tell you to not drive your motorized vehicle on a sidewalk. When they get their license to drive it, that they're required to have, like, that's part of driver's ed. Like, it's,
How about the ones that are not licensed? The ones that nonetheless have wheels and they go zooming by you. Is there any way to keep them on the road? It's dangerous.
which one are you talking about? The single wheel ones?
Well, I suppose if they had a plate, we could try to take a picture of it, right?
Or signage, something to keep them on the road and not whipping by you on the sidewalk.
Signs are only good for people who want to read them and obey them, right? We don't put a sign up that murder's illegal, right? Right? I shouldn't have to put a sign up that you can't ride your motorcycle up on a sidewalk with people and pedestrians, right? You don't drive your car on the sidewalk. There's no sign that says don't put your car on the sidewalk, right? And so, I don't. If we put too many signs up, we find this at the station, we'll put policies for everything, and if it's just everything, it just becomes background noise. There's already enough signs. I see what you're saying. I don't know how practical that is. One of our biggest challenges is the enforcement. So these scooters that we've recovered, the 77 of them or so, we get them when they're parked, we get them when they pull over, we get them, right? The officers are not wearing uniforms, they're dressed like me. They run up, pull their badge out, grab the handlebars, grab the keys out. That's how we're getting them. We can't chase. We're not gonna chase a guy on a scooter that's much more nimble, can go through side streets with a 3,000-pound SUV, that I'm going to cause way more, I put the public at way more risk driving my Explorer at trying to chase a scooter, right? Again, you talk about the person who, you're pushing a baby carriage across the street, what comes out first? The baby carriage. I can't risk field goal kicking a baby carriage with my cruiser because I'm trying to stop a guy for no license plate. It's not worth the risk. So we have to get them when they're parked.
I just want to close too, just on the hub. thing, so the final part of our three phase of, unfreezing the status quo, moving to a new status quo. Part of it is the hub table, which is basically it's like a room like this, with a bunch of stakeholders, people, from every facet of the mental health addiction, homelessness, and all those places. We meet together, the police officer presents, like one or two people each week. And then we see who can kind of take the problem, diagnose it, offer services, things like that. So we're gonna try and go, one by one. We're gonna use the information we get from our police reports and, from being outside. So we're trying to have, this isn't just about making arrests and things like that. It's not just enforcement actions. It's also trying to offer some help and long-term solutions to these people. So that's kind of the third facet of our plan.
This is for the district?
This is specifically for District A1, so we're gonna have these
So
meetings.
that can be something we could do in the future.
Yeah, and not to mention, if you had we were at the Bay Village yesterday, and there's a guy, Julian, who's defecating outside and, just causing a lot of issues and stuff. So, he does technically have housing with Mass Public Health, so we're kind of able to kind of reconnect, see what the miscommunications, what's gone haywire, and then we, come here. And there's other instances that they've dealt with someone who's a chronic 911 caller, just causing problems and, talking about stuff that's more related to probably their mental health. And so we're kind of able to, things like that. So it's
Like 600 911 calls in a year.
And my process is it's really positive
That's
for,
legal.
officer wellness, because we're gonna
That's
try and
police to their
reduce,
concerns.
reduce those
Yeah.
burnout calls, because we're just keeping, and that doesn't just burn out the cop, it burns out the mental health, the addiction specialist, everybody's.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you for what you do on behalf of you. You do a great job. We're so impressed.
One more follow-up question. I know I cut you off.
Yeah, no, you did, but anyway, it's really two questions, so.
We really gotta move.
Yeah.
It's our agenda is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll give you I'll get my contact and call me. We'll
Yeah.
answer it.
We'll bring, they come back every month.
Oh, yeah.
I think I got what I've lost.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Jake, make sure she gets my contact info.
Yeah.
Email.
Thank
Thank
Uh,
you. Welcome, no
To
problem.
the extent that you would like to hear Karen Owens, did I pronounce that correctly? Karen, who's the communication director for the Office of Emergency Management.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're welcome to. sit in here.
thank you all.
Okay.
I'm heading back down to the conference to talk about.
We need to make sure that everybody can hear you, so if you're gonna stand there, which is great, let me just put this down toward you and.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me virtually?
Yep.
Do the thumbs up reaction. Okay, we got Joe Christo, yes to you. All right, well, good evening, everyone. How are you doing today? That's good. So my name is Kyron Owens. I'm the Communications Director for the Office of Emergency Management for the City of Boston. I'm gonna ask a question. So how many of you have heard of the Office of Emergency Management? Just by a show of hands. Okay, all right. I see some people virtually. Okay, you raising your hands there? All right. So, okay, I see you, Sheila. So, for those who haven't heard of the Office of Emergency Management, we are the primary emergency coordinating agency on behalf of the City of Boston. Our mission is to ensure that the city is in a ready position to respond to, recover from, prevent, prepare, mitigate any major emergency regardless of scope or scale, to get us back to normal. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So we house all of the emergency plans on behalf of the city. We maintain them. We work with other city departments to make sure that they understand their role. If there's a vulnerability, that we're doing everything we can to address it. In addition to that, we are the fiduciary for the Metro Boston Homeland Security region, okay? That includes 8 other cities and towns that surround Boston. This could be Somerville, Brookline, Winthrop, Quincy, Everett, Cambridge, right? And when you think about it, so we go for what's called the Urban Area Security Initiative Grant. This is given by FEMA. And this helps to fund different goal areas that help us to achieve that mission. So that could be funding for cybersecurity, medical surge, it could be a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, explosive. We want to make sure that we're prepared for those events. It could be even community preparedness, what we're doing here today, right? And so we fund that, we make sure that all the jurisdictions, that they're spending their money in the appropriate ways, as FEMA dictates. And we also house the Emergency Operations Center for the city of Boston. Do you guys know where that's at? Oh, okay, so.
Are we
That's-
supposed to?
Well, you might have, maybe did a little research, you might have known, but it's at 85 Bragdon Street, so it's in Roxbury. And so that's where whenever there's a special event happening in the city, or, you know, if we have to activate for a declared emergency, that's where city leadership is going. We also will have some, non-government agencies in there, primarily it'll be like the utility companies or Salvation Army or Red Cross, people who are supporting the event, right? And that's where that's the hub of information sharing. That's where resource, dispatch and tracking happens. And so that's where we're also housed as an office. I mentioned we do community preparedness. So that involves coming to meetings, neighborhood meetings, and signing folks up for Alert Boston, which if you're not signed up for, you will have the chance to sign up for. That is our emergency mass notification system. That allows us to notify you about any major emergency, letting you know what the resources are and what steps you should be taking to protect yourself and your loved ones, right? And we also encourage people to make sure that you're creating an emergency plan, that you're building an emergency kit, right? And so with those two things, it's not a one and done. You don't just create it and shelf it. No, you create it and then you review it, you practice it. You make sure that it's almost like second nature. Some important things I like to point out for when you're creating that plan, you want to make sure that you identify two meeting locations. One that's in the city, one that's outside of the city. That way, you know, if something happens at your home, everybody knows where to meet if it's in the city. If it's an event that's impacting the whole city, then everybody knows, okay, we're going to Springfield. I'm just throwing a city of town out there. You don't necessarily have to go to Springfield, but, and so we strongly encourage that. We also have 2 emergency skill-based trainings, which I'm very excited to let you guys know about. The first one is Until Help Arrives. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Say it again.
Until Help Arrives.
Okay.
Yep, for short, UHA. Until Help Arrives is a 4-hour training, right? It's 2 hours virtual, 2 hours in person. And what you learn is CPR, stop the bleed, and Narcan training. We can also include AED training as well. And you also learn how to comfort people during emergencies, how to make that 911 call, and just little specifics that can really assist you with that. And that's something that we would love to bring to your neighborhoods. So we can definitely partner on that. It's led by my colleague, Nancy Smith. And then the good thing about that is, let's say you take UHA and you're like, yeah, I love this. I want to be more involved in emergency response. We have our community emergency response team. And this was something that initially was created years ago under Menino. It kind of went dark for a little bit and we were able to revitalize it last year. And so we graduated our first cohort of 60 people. And so now we're just continuing to do that work. Now the CERT program is unique because it's 28 hours of training. It's 12 hours virtual and then it's 16 hours in person. You learn a lot of the same things that you would learn in Until It Arrives. So those credits, if you took that, would feed into that program, but you also learn a lot more, like that disaster psychology, fire suppression, and much more. And so you can visit our website, which is boston.gov/emergency. And we have a link that will lead you to our CERT page, which goes over how you can sign up. So I encourage you, if you're interested, go on there, start your online portion. So that way, once the next in-person training becomes available, you're ready to go, okay? Another new training that we recently did, we actually had the first session yesterday. There will be a second session on June 18th, is our business continuity training. This teaches businesses how to be sustainable through hazards, right? So that way, they can be prepared, and hopefully it will prevent them from closing their doors as we saw with, other emergencies, i.e. the pandemic and things of that nature. So I'll pause for a second. I feel like I've dumped a lot on you guys. Are there any questions?
For sure. I mean, how do we inform the members of the Wharf district as to what the emergency response is or should be? I think the public would like to, our members would all like to know, what is our role? What is everyone else's role? I think it's great that you're doing this, but we don't know anything about it.
No, 100%. So I think the first role is to make sure that you become informed about the different hazards and emergencies that can impact the city. And that's something that you can find online. And I would say almost tied with that, I would hate to call it second, is doing everything you can while there's no emergency in sight. We call it blue sky sunny days to make sure that you're getting prepared, i.e. making that emergency plan, signing up for the emergency alerts, building that kit, and also even a go bag. So the difference between the two is an emergency kit is really going to be effective for if you had the shelter in place in your home. A go bag is if you had to leave your home and you didn't have time to pack things, this bag is already assembled with your most important things. So i.e. your important documents. This could be insurance, social security, birth certificate, you name it.
So do you do training for this, for that also?
For how to build a kit?
Well, that, all the stuff you
Gorgeous.
just talked about, knowing the go bag and the stay bag and the, who's gonna do what.
Yeah, so we do, so we can partner with you to host an event to do
I think
that.
that's.
I
I
think that would be good.
really, I mean, we will all have, I just think about what happened, during the Boston Marathon bombing,
Mm-hmm,
and we were all sheltering in place here.
yes.
With everybody walking around with their AKs. None of us knew what we were supposed to do or not do.
Mm,
And and I think for the most part, all of us are ignorant and not prepared. And I think it's great that you are, but I think that I would like to think that one of the things that we as a community organization can offer is the kind of information and training that you guys can
yeah.
help us with.
So I think we can definitely collaborate on bringing that workshop to the neighborhood. I think we can also share with you guys, and once again, it is on our website, the steps for how you make a plan. We can also share with you an emergency kit checklist, which would give you a good sense of items that you should have. And then I think even that until barrage, you never know what's gonna happen. And I think that that really helps to give people some sense of confidence and security that, okay, if something happens right outside my door, whether it's a medical emergency, car crash, whatever, I can kind of maybe step in and help until the first responders are able to arrive on scene. We do have, so September is National Preparedness Month. And this year, we're actually gonna be having what's called the Ready Boston Field Day at City Hall. And so I would definitely encourage, we'll have one in Mattapan as well. But I would definitely encourage you, if Mattapan is a little too far, come down to City Hall. We'll have a whole bunch of resources out there. We'll have some tabletop exercises going that can walk you through scenarios and help you think through, hey, how can I be more prepared for this? And once again, we can do that on a smaller scale with you guys as well.
I think that was a question, right? They come to us, yeah.
We should probably raise our hands rather than just. One of the concerns that I think we all have here is that we are a vertical community. So many of the Boston neighborhoods are single and two-family houses. I mean, we are basically made up of condominiums and apartments where everybody lives.
I got you.
So how do we get prepared? Because there have been different issues, like a fire or even the water coming up.
But we're also on the harbor, and if there's a major maritime disaster, that's a different thing than some of the inland properties. So
Right.
I think something rather tailored to our situation would be really great.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you do if you're on the 30th floor?
Try 16,
Well, that's it.
the dog.
No, 100%. And thank you for bringing that up. So we have emergency shelters all throughout the city, and I'm gonna come back to your point. Most of them are with the BCYF centers. All of our shelters are pet friendly. So when you're making your kit, make sure you're thinking about your pets as well. Anything you need for your pets, make sure that's packed as well. So that way, they're not impacted, by that. I would say, so for most of the buildings, I believe they have emergency plans. So I would definitely connect with your building managers to see if they have a plan and if they can share that with you. And I think the primary thing is, just staying in a ready state, I think goes a long way, right? Because if there's a fire, you're not gonna have time to go find your insurance documents and all these other things. No, you're not gonna have time to go get food for the pet. And so the more you are prepared prior to the event, I think it definitely goes a long way for making sure that then you can hopefully get.
And is it safe to assume that you can do that digitally for the most part?
Like all your important documents and stuff, or? Yeah, 100%. We encourage, I mean, obviously, I would encourage that you do a little bit of both. So I would have multiple copies of my important documents. One in my emergency kit, one in my go bag. And then if you can save it digitally, do that as well. But you want to have copies just in case the tech goes down, you still have something physical that you can rely on 100%. Did you have a question, sir?
Just a comment, which is, my mind is blown by all this, because we have emergency procedures and drills on our vessels all the time. The man overboard procedures, fire drills and so forth. One of our vessels just pulled somebody out of the water the other day. They spotted somebody that had, their dinghy had capsized. But I have not until this point thought about having a kit at home for our emergencies that might arise. So really, this is extremely,
I think our members should be very receptive. If you can put something together, Suzanne, you wanna work with them to try to make something like that happen? Sheila, is this what you were working on before?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't find my little hand raise. Anyhow, yes, the Intercontinental, we actually did put together a emergency preparedness kit. And we are willing to share with any building, anyone in the Wharf District. It needs some work, but it does have most of the pieces there that Karen has been addressing tonight. And I think it's really, really important. We even did a presentation in front of our homeowners. I brought my little emergency kit and all that, because it is, as you know, we cannot stop thinking about this, especially in our world right now.
Sure, absolutely.
No, 100%.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
No, it's my pleasure, and
Question.
Yeah, anybody else online? Sheila, go ahead.
I have a question. Karen, I appreciate you answering my questions that I had sent earlier. But I do have a follow-up question about life science buildings and the emergencies and the precautions that need to be taken. I had asked Karen, as specifically, maybe because we live next door to one at the Intercontinental, but what precautions, what are the thoughts? Because we know, especially during Katrina and other places, a lot of these type of businesses cause, should we say, major serious pollutions in the areas. And you very nicely said that, the facilities are required, and this is part of their own plan. Does the city, however, require a review of these plans? Because I am concerned there's different levels of entities throughout the city who have these type of businesses. I mean, I know Vertex would be extraordinarily, with their facility, be very responsible. But we really do, is there some process or procedures that the city is thinking about where you say to, a Nanfeng, what do you have ready to go if something should happen?
Yeah, so that would run through the Boston Fire Department. Most hazardous materials have to be reported to them. So that way we have a general awareness of where these things may exist. So that way, you know, if there's a response that has to happen, they go in there more prepared and informed on what they could potentially be walking into, and what they may have to look out for.
Okay. Second question has to do with, and I know this is a difficult issue because it keeps on changing because we keep on building. But is there anything out there that can give people an indication of emergency routes outside the city?
Great question. I get it all the time. Evacuation, right? So a couple of things that I'm gonna preface my answer with. So whenever there's an evacuation, especially if it's like a planned event, we know this is coming. That evacuation is gonna happen a minimum of 48 hours in advance of any onset or impact of that event, right? And that could even be extended a little bit further out, where it would be a phased approach to get folks out of the city. Obviously, we're gonna focus on where the impact is gonna happen initially and work our way out from there. The evacuation signs, these blue signs with the white arrows, and it's like, where do we go? So most of the signs, we're moving away from the signs, and we're actually trying to tap into more technology based solutions. So working with companies like Waze and Google to make sure that if there was an event, they're able to highlight those routes automatically for you. And most times, those signs are leading you out of the city or to higher ground, right? Because a lot of those are hurricane evacuation routes. And so in the city of Boston, we have 3 hurricane evacuation zones, A, B, and C. A is the most high risk, you could say, and then B is a little bit more inland. C is obviously the most inland part of that. And so that is available on our website. We do have a brand new interactive map application where you can find cooling sites, emergency shelters, evacuation routes, and more. So I encourage you all to visit boston.gov/emergency. Sarah, if you don't mind, I'm gonna call on you for a little bit of help. If you can throw that into the chat, I would greatly appreciate you. But it's boston.gov/emergency, and that's where you can get information and view that map and start to plan. One thing I will say, it's good to go on there and find out where these locations are. However, if an emergency is declared, please visit the site to confirm which location is open, because there are instances where you may have a shelter that's 2 minutes away from you and another one that maybe is 10 minutes away from you. And obviously when you're planning, it's like, I'm gonna go to the 2-minute one, it's right there. That facility may not necessarily be open or activated to respond to that event. And so you always want to check to see which locations are open and available for you to go to. Any more questions? And did that answer that for you? Are we good?
Great.
Okay.
Look forward to coordinating with you. Thank you very much.
Follow up. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And that is traffic. I mean, I think the Boston traffic is like
It's
one
out
of
of
the
this
United
world, yeah.
States. How do we deal with that, or what is your view in that, if there is an emergency evacuation?
So if there's an emergency evacuation, we're gonna be working with the state, we'll be working with BTD to make sure that the travel lanes are accessible and that they're moving. There'll be a ton of resources that officers there directing traffic and helping to make sure that there's a consistent flow that's happening. And one thing, I know you're trying to move us. We have 2 clipboards with QR codes. The first one will be, it's a blue clipboard, that will be for you to sign up for Alert Boston if you haven't already. You scan the QR code, you'll scroll down a little bit, you'll see on our webpage where you can input your information, you sign up, you'll be good to go. The second, if you're not comfortable with that, I'm happy to stay and sign you up manually myself. The second clipboard is for our household preparedness survey. And this is for us to really gauge how prepared residents feel or are. And so there's no judgment, okay? If you're not prepared, that's okay. We want to know that, so we know what kind of initiatives we need to be investing in to make sure that all of our residents can be prepared, okay? So those two things we'll send out. I can also send you a link for that as well, so that those of you who are virtual are not left out of that. We would love for you to be signed up for Alert Boston, and also get your feedback for that survey. And I think that's it. If I missed anything, I'll definitely be sure to send it over in an email to recap that for you. Last thing I'll mention, we had a chief, his name was Shemaine Benford. He left our office in June of last year. So we have a new chief, Adrian Jordan. He spent 27 years as a firefighter, and he recently came over, like I said, last June. So he's the head of our department. I talked to him, I said, hey man, the folks at Wharf Council really want to meet you. Okay, so when we have that event, we'll make sure that he's there, and you guys can have the chance to engage with him and say hello. Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
From Kermit Global, he's in charge of.
He doesn't lose his first.
That's right.
Okay, do you mind just typing in my email address then?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's KY.
So, KY.
RON.
RON.
Period.
Period.
OW.
OW.
ENS at boston.gov. And please feel free to reach out to me, anybody. More than happy to work with you. If you're connected to other organizations and you think that they can benefit from some of the things that we offer, more than happy to do it. That's my job and I love it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, we are going to hear from the famous, world famous Derek Anderson, who's going to tell us about a project that we've all been working on together. And that is a way of passing along the good fortune and experience that we have had in putting together our plan for a climate resilience master plan for the Wharf District. Let's give this to you. Very good.
You happen to have the slides there? Or do you want me to try
No,
to share my?
you're going to go ahead and do it.
All right, let me see if I can. It's been having a little issue with the Wi-Fi connection disconnected in here, so I'm trying to get up on my phone right now. Give me just a moment. Is there like a cord for the Wi-Fi or no?
No.
No.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
So what you guys are getting, I'm sorry for the folks that are virtual. You guys are getting some portable phone chargers.
Oh,
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, my God.
Got it? Better pass some slides.
Okay, so
I'd like to go through his training. I can make Suzanne.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I got it on my end as well. Finally. I love this thing. Oh, great, thank you. All right, excellent. So up on the screen here, what we're sharing is the handbook that the Wharf District Council and my team at ARP have been working together on a little bit here. Just for a little background, I think a lot of you are aware that, from what was it, 2020-ish, 2023, we're working on a flood protection plan for the Wharf District. Coming out of that effort, we were able to gain really great support from the community, as we presented through these meetings with you all, as we worked with, the various representatives in city government, the Boston Planning Department and others. We had really good support for the plan. We also really excitingly, had unanimous support for a single flood protection plan from every waterfront property owner, both private and public. And that was something that I don't think we're aware, and we've talked with folks in the Army Corps and others, we're not aware of another project in the country that was the scale that we took on, that was community-led, to develop a flood protection plan. And to have an outcome where we had that kind of support, we thought was something that we had to share with others, in terms of how that happened, how we were able to deliver that, so that other communities can see what worked, what didn't work, the things that we'd recommend other folks to do if they want to take that journey themselves in other communities. So what we've done to really share out the lessons learned of our project, both how to set up a project and deliver it and everything else, is really baked into this, what we're calling a neighborhood resiliency project handbook. So this is really geared towards community organizations like the Wharf District Council and other communities. It's geared towards other nonprofits, residents, citizens, whoever may be interested in helping to build resiliency within their community, whether it's leading a project like what the Wharf District has undertaken, or influencing an ongoing resiliency project in their community. So if we go to the next slide, it's in 3 parts. I'm not going to obviously go through the whole thing here, but I think what we want to do is just let people know that this is available. This is a resource. So as people are saying, hey, there's, we heard about this Wharf District resiliency project. How do we do that in my neighborhood? This is what that's for. So if people come to you and say, how do we do that? Send them to the website, send them to the Wharf District Council website. We got a link at the end of the page here, but it's right up on the website. This is what's in there. So the first part is basically guidelines for how to lead what we're calling a neighborhood resiliency project. This is like a community-led resiliency project, right?
Let me just add to what Derek is saying is that, we're a little bit famous amongst other communities for what we achieved. And so it's not that other people want to do exactly what we did. They want to know how we managed to pull this off, because it is unique. And so I've had a number of meetings with people who said, how do you do this? How did you manage it? So we said to Derek, tell them how to do it.
Yeah. I was thrilled to get that call, because it's wonderful to have moments where communities come together and really try to help each other and share out those things. It was very inspiring for me. So we didn't hold back. Everything is in here. We tried to make it as easy to digest as possible. There's a lot of graphics. There's also a lot of context for folks if they really want to get into the weeds. The first part, like I mentioned, is basically just the guidelines for how to set up a project, deliver it, and build support for it. The second part goes into best practice examples from our project, so people can see, okay, what are we trying to develop here? What are the deliverables? What are the outcomes here? So it's a lot of materials that we developed that we hope will streamline the effort for other folks. So a lot of this is really getting into, we spent a fair bit of time, a fair bit of money that a lot of people contributed to here. We want the next communities to be able to do this faster, more cost effective, and build off the success that we had. So that's really what's in here. And then the third part is for communities. We had the benefit of working, standing on some of the shoulders of great work that was done before us through the city of Boston, through the Planning Development Department, other folks here in the city. So we really wanted to highlight some of those great resources that were available to us and some of the support that was given to us through the city that helped facilitate this project. So other cities, other public agencies have those resources. Hey, if we want to do this in New Bedford, we want to do this in Providence, wherever it might be, they can say, all right, here's what we as a city need to do to facilitate a neighborhood, a community coming along and setting up their own project. So the next few slides are really kind of the graphics of this, just so you know what's in here. I'm not going to go into great depth, but of course, happy to have a conversation. So in the first part, again, this is about setting up the project. So we have identified a step-by-step guide for how to set up the project, determining if you need a project, if it would be helpful or maybe counterproductive. We get into those considerations, how to organize your own structure as a team to lead a project, how to define goals and key tasks, estimating what it's going to cost to deliver this project, and how to raise funding to deliver that. And then finally, how to secure technical support to go through it. There's a lot of engineering and other consultancy support that might be necessary for these. So it goes through each of those 5 steps. Next slide. Then we have another part on how to actually deliver it. So now you've set up the project, here's how to deliver it, step by step again, from due diligence to the engagement with stakeholders in the community, how to set up preliminary designs, hold stakeholder workshops. That was a really central part of what was successful here, is how we engaged with various stakeholders in the project. So we talk about that, how to select a design and how to advance it to final design. The next slide. So then, all right, you've created a plan. You don't want to just collect dust somewhere, you need to build support for it. So what were our lessons learned building support for this plan? So it goes through those things that we learned. Part two, I mentioned, this is where we get into those examples from the Wharf District project, those best practice examples. We talk about the Wharf District Council's Climate Resilience Task Force. What was its structure? Who was in it? Who did we want to be part of that? And why was that successful? So we talk about that structure of the task force. Then there's a whole bit on how we engaged with stakeholders. Again, this was really central to the success there, because this is, again, community-led. This is not top-down. This is everybody participating, sitting at the table and working through this. We lay out the engagement model that allowed this to be successful. I'm not going to go into all the details here for time's sake, but I'm happy to come back to this if people want at the end, because this is a really important piece. But just what were the workshops we held with people? What were the goals of those workshops? What were we trying to get out of each one? Who were we trying to reach and engage at each step in the process? And what were their roles and responsibilities? We created a set of evaluation criteria that helped us select a design, not just select, but go through the pros and cons and help people understand why you might choose one strategy over another and what the repercussions might be if you choose between those things. So we have those laid out here because these are really, really, I think, useful for just about any community anywhere to help make those kinds of decisions and communicate those decisions.
One of the things that I always talk about when we talk about selecting an option, one is to do nothing. And so what are the consequences if you do nothing? What are the consequences if you do option 1 versus 2 versus 3? Because people say, well, it's like, I don't know, supposing we don't have the wherewithal to be able to do anything. Well, so then you should know what will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the next slide, this follows on to those evaluation criteria. Once you've set out and said, all right, these are the things that are important for us to consider when choosing between different options, now you have to somehow have a methodology for how to show and communicate those options. So
This is really in the weeds.
this really does get into the weeds.
But if you're really gonna do this project, if you really wanna know, this document will lead people through all the way so they know what to do. This is our way of giving back to the rest of the country.
And when we're talking in the weeds, if we go back to that one, the handbook gets way more into the weeds than even this image. Like, it goes through the exact process of how to put a numerical score down to each of those things and then use quantitative descriptors to help people understand what that all means. It goes through the whole thing. So that's all baked in there. There's a lot of work, a lot of time went into this. So other communities have that. I don't expect everybody or even most people are going to want to read that, but it's in there for the people that really do.
And just as a reminder, Derek led every single one of our property owners through this same process to be able to come up with it.
Wow. Who is the audience for this? I know we do sort of like an overview, which I think folks in this room would be interested in. But in terms of reading a 65-page book, who is this aimed at? It's not your average citizen, so to speak.
We would not generally know, but I found that many communities have either citizens or they've got, groups of volunteers that will often help their communities in different ways. And a lot of them will focus on things like climate resiliency. In some cases, there are groups of people trying to organize, like the Wharf District Council, or there are individuals that are trying to, help their communities in similar ways. It's those, whether it's a nonprofit community organization like the Wharf District Council, that in another community, that would be a perfect example of the audience here.
Well, for example, folks from the North End, leadership from the North End wanted exactly this. Folks from South Boston, Seaport, have asked specifically is there something rather that we could refer to where we could go through step by step? So it's not the average Joe or Jane on the street, but it is the community leaders and
Right.
groups like ours who are trying to figure out what they're gonna do.
Yes.
Or, yeah,
And I'd say there's, before we move on from that, just because there's a second audience as well, I'd say public agencies
Yeah.
that want their communities to lead similar efforts. There are so many miles of coastline to protect, and cities only have limited resources, right? So they have to focus in on specific areas. There are some communities, I think, that are very interested in their residents and their, organizations like the Wharf District Council taking on similar efforts so that they can work together and really build up their capacity to provide community resilience. So those public agencies, part 3 is all about how they can help facilitate organizations like the Wharf District Council to lead these things.
I think Cynthia had her.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
I just want to say, once I'm watching this, my thought is I have a home in Falmouth and I'm going to figure out who in the government is working. So, and then also the trustees in my neighborhood because it's also waterfront. So
sure,
that's how my mind was.
but that's exactly what.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Matt.
I was just gonna say, it's occurred to me to share this with the municipality of Provincetown. Absolutely, a lot of discussion down there. I think they would be very interested in looking at this as, at least as a template.
Yeah.
We've actually applied for, it will be 2 grants, one to the feds and one to the state. For the money, to be able to work with Boston Harbor Now. To be able to do this for 2 other Massachusetts communities. And then help them to do what we have done, and then take the lessons learned from all 3 of us and package it so that it will help even more communities to be able to move forward with similar things. Ours is a kind of a unique solution, but I think, having 3 or more will.
How will you choose?
Yes, Matt, you have a question?
Just more of a comment, and Derek, I'm not sure if this is going to wind up as much in the final report, but it's important for everyone to understand the role that Arup really played here, which is and Mark touched on this as well. We had 16 different property owners, some of which were, let's be fair, were in active litigation against each other when this plan was being put together. And the ability to be the politician is not the right word, but to be the trusted advisor that could come in. And again, the way this was done, doing 16 different conversations to come up with a plan that was acceptable to everybody and then have that work together and seamlessly fit together is unbelievable. I think that really is the key lesson I take away. It can get lost in all this technical detail that Derek is showing here, but it was that political process to make everyone come together that was really the secret sauce that made this all work. And I hope that comes together in the final report. We keep that sort of macro level at the center of it, because that really was, to me, the reason. And I remember when we were going back and evaluating the different consultants we were working through, Derek had the best process of anybody that we talked to, and that really, in my mind, is what separated them from everyone else. They all have good technical expertise, but it's that process to make everyone come together that really, I think, made this happen. So kudos to Derek. I'm not there in the room with you, but give him a big pat on the back.
Oh, much appreciated, Matt. And altruistically, we have really tried to share exactly that process in this handbook, because there are too many communities for Arup to help them all as much as we'd love to.
So
So
we'll be happy to help.
we'll be happy to help communities, but we've really tried to lay out in here so that other consultants can take that role that Arup did and really take that forward. We're not trying to hide secrets here in any way. This is really meant to be out there so people can follow the path.
I think we should all, I certainly, and I hope you also feel proud about the fact that we're able to, the money we received, thank you very much, Aaron Nickowitz, and all of us contributing to that we're in a position to be able to share the benefit with that and communities that don't have our resources. So.
Want to go to the next?
Yeah.
So I'll move quickly through the rest here. Again, just examples of things that we set up, some important things like how to set up. This was a idea that I think led in this process that the city really loved. which is creating resilient zones. We don't want just one line of protection where if you have a single point of failure, you're gonna have flooding behind your whole flood protection system. So we have got zones that are self-protected. It also allows us to protect in a neighborhood or a piece of a neighborhood. So it's protected on day one after construction, regardless of whether abutting neighbors come on board with their systems. That was a question that came up over and over again in our process. Next slide. Then I've got some graphics on how to communicate the elevation we need to raise our flood protection systems up to provide protection to. I'm not going to get into this because that would take a couple minutes, but just again, we've got this here to help communicate things. Next slide. And more graphics on how we felt, the more effective forms of communication that we felt to help people understand what their flood risks were. Next slide.
Before you go,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people have seen this map, but I think this is an incredibly important visual. Because what it demonstrates is what is going to happen in our waterfront, our neighborhood, if something is done.
Yeah, so I'll pause here for a moment because I agree this is an important one for everybody to be aware of. The different colors indicate, if you're in one of those buildings, this is showing you your risk of flooding, not in 2070, but in 2035, 2040. Like this is what we're looking at, and it shows you how much flooding. In most cases, we're talking with just everything on the screen there has a risk of at least 6 inches of flooding. We're talking like 60% chance for a lot of these buildings having water 6 inches. Now you might think 6 inches is much, but most of us have like underground utilities that you need to stay dry.
Sidewalk grates that will fill up.
And the building, and then we also show what kind of depth we might be looking at with like if Winter Storm Grayson from a few years ago came, how many feet of flooding we'd be looking at in your building in 2030, 2035-ish, 2035-ish time frame.
That's on the website,
And the height,
it's on the website.
it's on the height. Yeah, it
Yes.
is. I mean, look at this,
Yeah.
4 feet. Zone 6.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah, sure is. So yeah, this graphic is up on the website for folks that want to see it separately from it's in the handbook if you want to grab it there, but also I think we've got that up. Yes, there's a climate resilience tab on the Wharf District Council's website that has a direct link to this map for anybody interested in that. Next slide. Yeah, so we've got a set of guidelines for individual individual property owners. This is meant not just for the waterfront, but for all the properties inland. So anybody that was lit up with a color on that map, you should be thinking about what do I do to protect myself? We're very fortunate to have our friends here from Emergency Management Office. So again, we've got a checklist here feeding into those things. What do we do at a property level to be prepared for flooding? And it goes through that in detail. And then finally, last slide from me. Again, part 3 is geared more towards public agencies. So these are, I'm not going to read through all of these, but basically in part 3, we talk about the things that the city of Boston did really well that helped us get off the ground and have success in our project that we would recommend other communities replicate in their own communities. And again, there's a link there, and it's right up on the website. If you just go to the website, I think you'll be able to find the big thumbnail for the handbook right on the front page there.
So jumping a little bit out of sequence here, but we're going to be having, I think everybody knows we're producing a video that is going to be premiered the second week in July is the current plan. And not only does the video talk about what we've done, what our challenges are, what the opportunities are, what the consequences are if we don't do something, and how much better Boston will be if we do. But it also has on it the link to this handbook, so that people can click on the QR and they'll be able to get to it. So we've created this whole package of public awareness and how to do something about it. Questions?
Have one.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you're talking about that project, where you're gonna pick a couple of tier cities and
Yes.
how are you gonna do that? What will be the criteria?
Thanks. We are going to work with the, political leader to figure out the best way to go about it.
Being, Massachusetts or, okay.
I don't know the answers.
But they, if you're
Well,
interested, they
if
would
we
reach out
get,
to you,
if we
right?
get the grant, part of that, there's a long process that we have to go through. And one of the questions they will ask is, you know, how are you gonna do that? And I think the idea is that we want them to be, A, communities that are particularly endangered, and B, communities that are different from each other, so that the lessons learned, not just specifically an urban, large city, urban downtown, but also, I don't think we have much to contribute to that if we're just talking about a shoreline and a park somewhere. So there'll be reasoning, some sort of reason, yeah.
But, yeah, I think we also want to make sure we're coming to communities that don't already have the resources. We don't want to duplicate efforts with a planning department in a city, right? We want to go to places where the planning departments aren't able to dedicate the necessary resources in the near term so that we can build together towards something.
They have to be up there. Derek, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Of course.
for the great work, your leadership all along the way, and
Appreciate it.
continue evolving.
Yeah. Very, very happy to be working with you all, and it is really heartwarming in today's world to be working towards some good together.
Yes.
Thank you all.
That's not all like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so Ryan, is Ryan here? Ryan,
Hey, Mark, it's Dennis Quilty.
hey Dennis, how are you? Are you
How are you?
doing a presentation for us?
Yes, please.
Great.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Dennis.
How are you? Very interesting program you had tonight. That was good.
Great.
So yeah, should I jump right into it, Mark?
Please do.
Thank you for your
My name is Dennis Quilty. I am an attorney here in Boston working with the One International Place ownership and their intended licensee for the licensure of an amenity space in the building. With us tonight are Alan Beardsley and Sarah Gore from Convene, which will be the operations company. And I think Don Chaffaro Jr. is with us, although I'm not certain of that. I can't see.
I'm here. Yep,
Oh, there he is. Hey, Don.
I'm here, and I think we actually have a representative at the at Rose Wharf there too, in person. So, David.
All right.
Bye.
So I think the easiest way to describe this is what's been happening with many of the large downtown buildings, notably One Winthrop, the new Winthrop Square Tower, excuse me, One State, 200 Clarendon, have all created these amenity spaces in an effort, of course, to attract tenants and keep tenants and to make the buildings have more opportunities for folks, in these spaces. So in this case, it would be the third floor, which would become an amenity space of a variety of different styles of uses, most of which would be around, events for tenants, private events for tenants, excuse me, things of that nature. There are variety, there's boardroom, tech room, a game room, a cafe, a gallery, a terrace, a wellness area. These are all intended to be attractions for current and proposed tenants in the future. In this case, they have purchased a license. If anyone's interested, if you remember Thornton's over in the Fenway, which went out of business about 1.5 years ago, the license was purchased for transfer to this location. We do not have a hearing date. Following this meeting, we would be eligible for a hearing date because we've had an abutters meeting about 10 days or so ago. And once we complete the Wharf District meeting, we would be eligible to ask the mayor's office to set us up for a hearing date, which would be a Wednesday morning, probably 3 weeks from now, at the licensing board. So that is where we are in the process. And we're certainly happy to answer any questions you guys might have. This will be intended to be not a, loud, raucous kind of a bar setting, but rather an amenity for adults. And basically an amenity for the tenants of the building. And again, it's very similar to these others that I mentioned at these other addresses. Similar as well to places like High Street Place in some respects, Timeout Market, places like that, that also were amenity spaces created for those buildings. So that's the information. That's at One International, 3rd floor. And again, we're happy to take your questions.
Is it open to the public or is it for tenants only?
Well, as a license is a public amenity. So the answer is yes, although it will be focused on tenants and functions that, tenants or companies would request to utilize the space for.
And our licenses, sorry for the ignorance on this, our licenses defined by the number of people who can be in the space? Is this a big thing, little thing?
It's every license area has to provide City of Boston Inspectional Services Department Certificate of Inspection and Boston Fire Department Place of Assembly Permit. And the capacity of a space may not exceed the lower of those two numbers. So I hate to give you an answer, leaving so much open, but whatever the plan new number is as determined by ISD and fire, that would be the number. But there are different locations in the area, and these are kind of preliminary numbers. But for example, a room they're calling the Hub has an occupancy of 89 persons. The game room, an occupancy of 70 persons. The cafe, occupancy of 106 with a total of 64 seats. If you add all these up, it looks to me like taken together, the gallery, the terrace, the wellness area, a podcast room you're talking probably in the neighborhood of 300 people all in. But again, these are different spaces some will be utilized more than others. And, again, the number, but the number has to be affixed by the city inspectional and fire department.
This is one amenity center on the 3rd floor that's broken up into various levels and various areas. So different functions, different uses, different events. And there is a liquor license tied to the little bar and cafe area for for the tenants, and it's just an amenity too.
Yep. Are there hours that this facility will be?
We're working on the hours with can be. It's pretty much business hours because it's for the tenants. Yeah. So it is, you have to still get through security. You have to go up the elevator. You come out on the 3rd floor. So it's very regulated.
Yeah.
But I think we are asking for like a midnight closing. You have to provide a closing hour to the licensing authorities. And in the event there were to be private events, of which we hope there will be many, a wedding, a business meeting, a bar mitzvah, whatever you might have, you'd want the license to be able to stay open late enough to accommodate somebody who was having a wedding, for example. But I think the usual day would be business hours after business hours, but that's really about it. And to have the ability to stay open for a specific function is the reason why you would ask for the midnight closing hour, which is, midnight, 1 o'clock for very standard closing hours in downtown.
Joanne, you have a question?
You
You're muted.
I know, I saw that, sorry. Hi, Dennis. So if the liquor license provides that it's open to the public and with the security there, which is excellent, how would someone get in? Just say, I'm going up to the 3rd floor to the cafe, or?
I think like many other places that have this kind of a use, it's certainly not going to be advertised that it's a public amenity, but as a license, it must be. So I mean, if someone knows it's there and they want to go up and take a look at it, you're going to be hard pressed to keep them out. It was not set up as a club, which is a style of license. So as not being a club, you are not allowed to disallow people to come in.
Well, we all know about it now.
You'll be a guest.
Oh, yeah, you'll be-
Be an invited guest.
You'll be welcomed guests.
Thank you.
Yeah, Judy?
I might have missed
or-
this.
or
I-
Mark?
I had to step away for a sec, but do you have, there are no new licenses being issued, right? So this has to be purchased from someone who's giving theirs up?
Yeah, I did. I suggested earlier,
Yeah,
it's
I
coming
did.
from, it's being purchased from a restaurant called Thornton's in the Fenway. It was over on Kilmarnock
okay.
Street.
Okay.
And that closed down and they sold the license.
All
There
right.
are
Okay.
licenses available in the city, but generally speaking, not in the downtown. Although even that, there are some out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Duna or whomever, when is the third floor supposed to be done?
We are closing in on it right now, so we're hoping to get our CFO next month.
Ah.
And then we've got an onboarding time for convening the team, and then we'll be opening up to the tenants.
Great.
We're excited.
Yeah, sure. Other questions?
And Mark, well, certainly as soon as we have the date, I'll pass it along to Suzanne and yourself, so you'll have the hearing date. But again, it's likely to be 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out max.
So you are requesting a letter of support from the Wharf District Council?
We'd love to have that, yes.
All right, so members of the Wharf District Council, we will ask you at the end of this to stay on for a executive session discussion and vote. Duna, you can recuse yourself from that one, I think, but
And I'll step up as well. That's fine.
we'll do that at the end of the meeting. Other questions? Great, Dennis, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mark. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, sounds great. We look forward to having a party up there.
Thank you.
Let's see, I think it's just updates, right? The
Yeah,
video,
it's just updates.
yeah, what do you want to add to that?
Well, I think you've covered the video.
Yep.
So I think you can. Here, you wanted to, just give us a quick update on the Greenway?
Yeah, Chris, you want to, have something you want to share?
Yes, thanks, folks. How's my volume?
Fine.
Great. So very happy to be here. It was a very productive meeting. Thank you very much. This is the last Wharf District Council meeting before we have to go through the permitting of an event that'll be taking place on the Greenway. I think you're all going to be incredibly excited about it. It's happening after, almost immediately after our gala. So it's loading in on June 8th and 10th, and it'll run from June 11th through 15th. I know this is a public meeting, but I would ask all of you to not immediately tweet this out or put it on Facebook. It is embargoed information, but we really value the Wharf District Council as good neighbors, and we couldn't in good conscience go through the permitting process without talking to each other. That's not right. And of course, Suzanne's on our board and she would never allow that anyway, right? So, so we're super excited. Basically, I think everyone in the world is aware that Lego is coming to Boston. And from June 11th through 15th, they will be activating different parts of the Greenway from the carousel all the way down to Rose Wharf Plaza. The hours of operation for the event portion of it will be 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they will be constructing large designs in the park. And I think it'll be a destination piece for folks who have grandkids and children. I think it'll bring a lot of foot traffic down to the Wharf District. So for everyone involved with businesses, as soon as we get the green light to share the information, we will. The best part of the activation is there's no late night activity associated with it. And we will have overnight security so it doesn't become, I forget what that's called, but like a nuisance, after hours where people are checking it out. We will have overnight security in the park. So it'll be pretty big. There will still be plenty of lawn to access during this event for all the dog walkers and everyone else who wants to enjoy the green space. But you will definitely notice it and it'll definitely be fun. So I just want to make everyone aware. There will be sound associated with it. And we understand that, Wednesday through Sunday, there are some weekdays in there. So we have complete control over the sound. We'll be working within the city regulations, but any noise complaints we will handle. But it's not in any way, it's not a concert. It's just ambient music. It's event style music and announcements, and they'll have drawings and fun activities for kids. And we're really, really excited about it. It's one of the largest activations we would have. And normally we wouldn't do something so corporate, but it's so playful and fun. We're super excited about it.
Chris, is there any chance that there'd be some sort of ongoing relationship between the Greenway and Lego that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mark. I hope they fall in love with it and they want to have, of course, I'm always dreaming like this would be like the Revere sand building contest or something, and it would happen every single year. What I will say is they certainly haven't committed to that. And we actually don't have any direct connection through Lego. This is all coming through an activation company. So we're going to do everything we can to establish that relationship. But I think other people are trying to do that too. But, we're super thrilled they're choosing Boston as the headquarters. And, we're just beside ourselves that they chose the Greenway. We're very excited.
Let us know how we can share our enthusiasm and hope that they can take some sort of quasi-permanent position on the Greenway.
No, that's wonderful. Really appreciate it. And so as soon as we have like the flyers that we can send out, we will send that out. And it's all part of like International Day of Play. So this is a multi-city international event, and Boston will be the big North American location.
Wow.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Joanne, anything you want to tell us about what's going on in the park?
Yes, certainly. Christopher Columbus Park. And so we have a couple of things that are going on. Tomorrow night is, I'm going to try and share my screen. Let's see. Did that work? You can all see that. Our membership social is tomorrow night at Tia's. We've had this for quite a few years. Tia's is very generous and provides a smorgasbord of food, if you will. So it's for people who are members, sponsors, volunteers, just, want to come and be with friends. So you don't have to be a member to actually participate, but we hope when you leave, you will be a member. We have raffles that you don't have to pay for the raffle ticket. That's free. And it's a really fun evening. So I just sent out a reminder email earlier and I called it, come in out of the cold and join the friends to get warm. So tomorrow is going to be cold, but it's not going to rain. We actually this year, usually we're around the bar area, which is crowded and cozy but not a lot of places to sit, which some people mind, some don't. But this year, and I think because the weather is so predicted to be not nice, we actually will be in the main dining room. So there'll be a lot of space to walk around. And I think it'll be really fun. So it's free from 6 to 9 tomorrow night at Tia's. And another thing we're going to kind of unveil tomorrow is, let's see if I can get this, is we have another initiative. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and then go back and get another image. So this is really fun. Are you all familiar with the free little library? You take a book, give a book. So we will have that in in a couple of months, it's gonna go up. And this is just an image of what it could look like, but ours is going to be red. We already have it. Our art curator, Robin Reed, is it's at her home, so she's working on putting it all together. We'll have Leahy Landscaping install it, and it'll be near the playground, not in the playground. So kind of near the water fountain and where the bulletin board is on the Richmond Street path. So it's obviously the top part. We hope will all be adult books, and the little munchkins can reach the ones that are on the bottom. So it's because of the support of our sponsors and members and all that we're able to do something like this. So we're going to be real proud of it. So we'll unveil that tomorrow night. You're getting kind of a sneak preview at it. And just another amenity that we can add to the park because we have such wonderful sponsors and friends. So I hope you can. I know many of you there are coming tomorrow night. I hope you'll all try and make it. And again, we always thank you for all of your support. It's very meaningful. Any questions?
Thank you, Joanne.
Welcome.
Yep, go ahead, something else?
We've covered a number of these items. The handbook that that Derek mentioned, also the video. I just want to let folks know that the requests for articles for the summer newsletter are going out actually this week. If you don't receive a request, these are mainly the businesses and business members. If you don't receive something and you would like to put an article in the newsletter, you can always reach out to me or Mark or anyone on the board and let us know, and we'll make sure that we involve you in getting in the letter. We hope to have that coming out in the end of June. And I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. And if you're not receiving the newsletter and like to, again, just let one of us know and we'll make sure you're added to the mailing list. The other things I want to touch on, we've discussed before, they're now on the website and being updated by Flory, who I know is on this call. Thank you, Flory, for doing an outstanding job. And we have an eat, drink, stay and play section. So the play section is not up and running yet, but there is an eat, drink and stay section, which, as I said, Flory updates. I would want to say, what, twice a month at least? I don't know.
The events, yeah, I update them twice a month.
Right, and Flory also updates our calendar of events, which so there's two sections which are extremely exciting and really showcase the Wharf District and what's going on here. So I would.
To our knowledge, we are the only community that has a comprehensive calendar of events, of things going on, and comprehensive list of restaurants that the community can access. You know, you can get a lot of this stuff on Google, but it is not thorough.
Right, and again, if you've got anything that you all would like to contribute to any of these sections, please reach out to us and we'll make sure that we include it in future versions. And unless someone has some questions, that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Suzanne, as always. Can we, we're gonna go into executive session now. Thank you all very much. We'll see you all.
Can I just make one last?
Oh, yes, please, yes.
Sorry, I should have tried this first. So on May 31st, we're gonna be hosting a fairness event in East Boston. So if you're available, it will be at the Excel Academy Charter High School. I don't want to get the address wrong, but I know it's on Bremen Street. But feel free to come over. It's from 9 to 2. You'll be able to hear from some of our keynote speakers, Mayor Wu, our Chief Adrian Jordan, Councilor Carletta Zapata, as well as Joe Christo, who is on the call from Stone Living Lab. There'll also be a panel discussion that you'll be able to hear about what you can do and kind of asking questions as panelists. So please feel free to.
That'd be a great model for us too. Yeah.
And I'll send you guys the flyer so you can blast out.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
We, May 31st.
All right, everybody. Fern.
No worries.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So tomorrow I have a call with Red Cross about hosting another blood drive. I was just seeing if there was any space in the area that had availability for a potential blood drive. Otherwise, I'll probably have to have it in Roxbury. But just wanted to see if there was any space available. We do blood drives for sickle cell anemia with Red Cross and just wanted to do one in our area. So, yeah.
Yeah, Fern, talk to Suzanne because I think that they have done blood drives here at the Leventhal Center.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and we've done them at International Place too.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, great.
Thanks, Dean. Okay, thank you all, and members, stick around for a quick vote if you will, please.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Again.